Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to Sunday morning and the old cookbook show. Today we're going to do a recipe out of this fantastic looking little book. It is The Virginia Housewife or Methodical Cook. This particular copy was published in 1856 and has been rebound very nicely. Someone has taken great care to rebind this. And there's an incredible inscription, dedication at the top of this page. And the penmanship is just absolutely unbelievable. Now, this is a later printing of this cookbook. This cookbook was originally printed in 1824, 1825. There were changes made over the years by the time you get to this one in 1856. It is a pivotal cookbook in the pantheon of American cookbooks. Often cited as the first real American cookbook. I kind of roll my eyes at that because I think, to my mind, there are a couple of books published before this one that are also real American cookbooks. And the reasons given for that sort of adulation are that this book really speaks to the cook in America in this time period. A departure from recipes that you would have seen in older English cookbooks. Yet, at least half of the recipes in this book are lifted directly from older English cookbooks. Recipes are taken here from Spanish cookbooks, from French cookbooks, etc., etc. That's the norm for cookbooks in this time period, but it does speak specifically about certain aspects of American cooking. The recipe we're going to do today is Shrewsbury cakes, which of course is an old English recipe that dates back to the mid-1600s is sort of the first time it's published. So in the bottom here, I've got sugar. I'm going to add to that flour and some coriander, ground coriander. Where I think this book shines is it sort of treads a balancing point in cookery for a couple of different reasons. You're starting to see that shift towards true American cooking. Cooking that reflects life in America, ingredients available in America. There are a lot of tomato dishes in this book. There are a lot of vegetable dishes in this book, living off the land. It also sort of treads a balance in this time period, especially with the baking, in the use of chemical leavening agents. There is only one recipe in here really with a chemical leavening agent, and that is pearl ash. Baking soda and baking powder were available when this book was printed in 1856, but they were new on the scene. Depending on who you believe and what your definition of invention is, baking powder isn't really invented until the 1840s. And when I say that, I mean someone has figured out how to make it, that it's safe to eat, and they're able to manufacture it in a way that they can sell it to the public, package it, and get it out there, even though it was discovered in like 1801. There is a recipe, though, for, like I said, for pearl ash. And the thing is, pearl ash wasn't used as often as in baking as some people would want you to believe. People didn't trust it, which was also part of the problem with the early adoption of baking powder and baking soda. People didn't trust it. Chemically, they didn't trust it. They didn't trust what it did. So they relied instead on eggs for lift or yeast. Most of the cakes in here use egg or yeast. And also, pearl ash left a bitter flavor. So you didn't trust it, and it left a bitter aftertaste. You didn't use it. Even though every time I go to one of those places where people dress up and interpret history in a historical setting, like, old Fort York or the fort in Kingston or the one in Quebec City, they talk about pearl ash as this thing that was used every day. And the historical texts just don't bear that out. They just don't bear that out. So that was melted butter, and I'm supposed to put the eggs in one at a time. Okay, last egg. Now the last ingredient is some brandy, and I thought I had some American brandy, but I don't. So a little bit of cognac, do exactly the same thing. It calls, so I've cut the recipe in half because I didn't need that much So it called for a Jill, an American Jill, not a British Jill, two completely different things. And so I'll put that brandy in. You're supposed to knead it, so the mixer's doing that job. I'm going to put a little bit of flour down here because the next operation is to roll it out. So we'll get this out onto the counter. It is a very oily, glassy looking dough, so it'll probably stick to the counter, and it's not going to give any resistance to roll it out. I could probably just pat it out with my hands. How thin is thin? Well, we'll find out. So I've got a cutter, and we'll cut out some fancy shapes onto the baking sheet and into the oven. Hey, Jules.
Hey! Hey, friends. Hey, Glenn. It's time for the cookies.
Shrewsbury cakes.
Is that a place?
Yeah, it's a place.
I wasn't sure if it was a thing or a bear. Okay, a Bury versus Berry. Okay,
Yeah,
got
no,
it.
It's a place. So this is from the Virginia Housewife in 1856.
I like the shape. Did they specifically say fun shapes?
They did. Well, maybe not fun shapes. What did they say? Interesting shapes? Oh no, just cut it in shapes. Could have been any shape. Could have been
So
triangles.
is it shortbread?
No.
Sugar cookie? No.
No.
So it's not crispy like a sugar cookie.
No.
It's a bit savory.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like them.
Yeah, it's got cilantro in it. Not cilantro. Not cilantro. The seed. Okay, so this is where that's a plant that's a little bit weird.
Cilantro or?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not in this recipe.
No. So this is coriander seed.
That's it. I'm just like funny as I can picture the jar.
Yeah.
In the cupboard.
So coriander seed, the fresh leaf we call cilantro. And that's kind of the break here. But I know that in other parts of the world, they don't break it that way. And they could be looking for the leaf to put in it.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I like it.
So it's before leavening, before chemical leavening. So there's no chemical leavening in it. It's a very simple cookie. I looked
Is
at
it not a lot of butter? Like I don't feel like it doesn't have that shortbready kind of texture to it.
well, it was melted butter, so that changes
Okay,
the
so that
texture.
changes the texture. So
Changes
that's
the
the
texture.
difference. Okay.
And when I looked at other historical recipes from pre-1856 for this cookie, it was a mix of savory and lemon.
Okay.
So there'd be lemon in it
Yeah.
as well.
Actually, I think I like it just with
Yeah,
this.
I think I'd put more coriander in it next time if I made them again. It's an interesting cookie. It's a cake. And it's not a Shrewsbury biscuit, which is, again, something slightly different. The recipes diverge at some point, and you've got Shrewsbury cakes and Shrewsbury biscuits, and anyway. These are pretty good. So,
I like them.
yeah, you can dress them up a little bit. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.